Welcome. Let's introduce everybody. It's Luisa who is hosting. We're
Hi there.
hello. So we're sorry we ran into a little bit of a technical difficulty. So we want to make sure we bring all the viewers here. So let's see, make sure the stream is on, and it will get started in a minute. Okay, I think I see some views. Hey everybody, from gaming coming up. Hey, we're gonna get a really good discussion today about master crypto influencers, how to build your community, and how to really scale up all different parts of influencer community, any type of marketing that allows you to grow your project, which ultimately the community is your live stream, right? So you want to have the engagement, you want to have the uh, the people who come in and really learn about your product. So without further ado, Luisa, please maybe introduce everybody and let us know how things
Yep.
are.
Hey everybody. Good to see you guys again. So I am one of the co-founders at Community One. We are a Discord specialist. We build AI tools specifically to help Web3 projects generate genuine engagement and also to help them monetize. With gaming, we actually know gaming quite a while. Gaming is actually one of our strongest community projects. We do a lot of data analytics, and they almost have a cult-like following. So I'm super excited to have this conversation going. And I also know Art pretty well. Smartest marketing guy I've ever met. So excited to learn from you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. And Blake, maybe you give a little bit about your own intro, your experiences. Please share
Yeah,
your
yeah.
little bio.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Blake. I'm from Gaming. I'm the head of Web3 marketing, and I've got to give my tip the hat to Louisa, Community One. Their tool is like really incredible. Really enjoyed using it so far, and I do recommend like any community that wants to sort of organically grow their Discord in a Zeely like fashion almost. That they look at Community One. It's definitely something to look out for. My background is in marketing. I've been marketing for the last 10 years. I focused more on the Web3 side of things for the last 4 years. I've had a couple of cool projects that I've helped take to market as like either a CMO, fractional CMO, or like just sort of like an advisor or consultant role. Gaming is my current focus for at least the last 1 and a little bit years. And yeah, excited to be here today talking to Art, who I heard is like a pretty big wig. I'm excited to segue into your introduction.
Thank you, Blake. Well, glad to have you here. I'm excited to be here. My background is I've been in blockchain for about 8 years now, and the former head of marketing at Apollo Market. I was actually first head of marketing, then which some of you probably have heard of. Then I was part of IoTex, and there we had done some really cool stuff. So really enjoyed being part of that team and seeing what's possible and what works. We have some really cool case studies I'll share later, and that were part of Zilliqa, another layer one, and just work with some different teams like in Solana and across different ecosystems, and therefore great. I think in this session we have so many great minds about marketing, so I can't wait. I can get ready just to get started, Luisa. Let's go, Luisa.
Yep.
So many great ideas. So audience, get ready.
Yes.
Get ready. Get your hats
Yes.
on. All right, get your hats on.
Okay, let's get it started. I want to kind of like go from day zero first. Is KOL marketing first or is building a community first for you guys? If you're starting a Web3 projects.
So to me, it's kind of one and the same. It's a you have to have a community from somewhere, right? So you don't just get community from nowhere. Community have to come from something. And generally, if you already have some sort of experiences, you have done events, you have some sort of community from previous project, that's makes your life easier. But if you have no community, who are you gonna go to? Jack, Joe, and Jill, your friends. So the community becomes very hard word to define. And in my opinion, the community is basically is who you know originally, and then how you grow it. And ultimately, to me, KOL, the proper organic KOL, not just like trying to spam KOLs, but really proper targeting and finding people who can connect with your community and bring audiences is my analogy is like you trying to start a fire, right? Every single project trying to start a fire, and fire is your community. The bigger the fire, the better. You want the bonfire. You want to be the top 100 projects and coin market cap. But to get there, you're starting with this tiny ignite flame. You're starting with a little fire, and you somehow need to add wood to it. And wood is new audiences, people who are learning about you. So, and who has those audiences? It's either your bigger partners, but ultimately to have bigger partners, you need to have something to offer them, or it's it's influencers who have communities that have they developed over the years that trust them, and they're the lumberjacks, and they're bringing the wood to your fire to help you grow that bonfire. So ultimately, there is many reasons to have a community. In crypto, you have to have it, but you have to define what is community. How do you start it? So yeah, so that's my definition. Like they're very much connected.
What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, like what comes first? I think you asked KOLs or community. From my experience, I think it's always community as well. So your community kind of act as your evangelists, and whether it's like a Web2 brand or a Web3 brand, you always need those evangelists at the very beginning. And so what we've seen is that in Web3, your evangelists really aren't those people that just sort of start off from the beginning and then sort of dwindle out as you scale up the business, but they actually tend to become your most influential and prominent voices within your community as you start to scale and grow, because they're there from the beginning. So they usually have somewhat of a bigger position than most. They usually earn some sort of like a level of respect, and then as a result, you know, whether you've got these people in, let's like use Discord for an example, given that that's where community one is. But if you have community channels like Discord, and you're doing it properly, you'll start to notice that your community members become elite community members. They're the people that sort of decide to volunteer without really anything in return besides just the love of the project. And you'll notice that like people start to kind of come in and they earn their levels by talking in the chats. They earn badges from different things that they achieve. And so these evangelists then help amplify your messaging to everyone else. And so when you do start to talk to KOLs, typically a KOL is kind of like an investor. And so as an investor, they sort of do like to see a little bit of traction as it stands. And depending on how much traction you've got, they're either going to ask for something more. The more traction you have, the less they'll ask, typically speaking. Not in every case, but the less traction that you have, the more traction you have, the less they'll ask. The less traction you have, the more they'll ask. And so, yeah, community really is one of those sort of stepping stones in Web3. And not only does it allow you to sort of, you know, bring out your brand message, but they're also, because of how much they love the brand, they become one of your biggest critics. And so they pin holes in parts of your business model where you might not have seen weaknesses before, and they help sort of shape and craft your brand in your business as a whole as it comes together. And I think that this is super important because they become your feedback loop, which is super important in a business. Every business needs some form of a feedback loop, and I think community definitely gives you that. So to bring it back, community or KOLs first, I would definitely say community.
Yeah.
And to be fair, you have to have community to like a framework. So you have to have something that if you're engaging with KOLs, you gotta keep those new members engaging. If you don't have the structure for community, you're done.
Yeah. I totally agree with Blake's point about feedback. I think that's kind of like, because we are not traditional Web3 projects, we never engage with KOL, so super excited to learn about those. But I think the feedback is why we are so active on our Discord community. people tell you all sorts of things. If you hear the same feedback again and again, and that's kind of like when you know you have to change something, and that actually helps us build better products. Okay, so let's talk about KOL because like that's why we're here. What metrics? How do you pick the best KOL? What metrics do you guys look at to decide who to reach out to?
It's so one thing, by the way, everybody who's watching, please tell us where you're from, where you're joining in the chat. We'd love to hear from about it. And let's jump to the question, KOLs. So for me, once again, it's metrics. There's two types of KOLs. So one is Blake mentioned, where they will take some sort of equity. And there's the other type of KOL is where they are kind of, you can pay for coverage of a project. Think of almost like advertorials, advertising, where they're really, the KOL part is really important if you are if you're looking to build trust. If you're a very small project, KOLs are great for doing a tutorial or review and helping you onboard your users. Two, when you're having some sort of main project and you need to increase your community or engagement in your community, new member flow, you can do it through KOLs or you can do it through your partners. So keep in mind, always tap into something you have. If you have a larger partner, such as a brand or somebody you're partnering on, anything could be a product, could be just an announcement. Always try to tap into those communities because in a way it's a KOL of their own community. So KOLs, like to define it, is not just influencer. It's really anybody with a large community. And you have to think of it as not just like, oh, this is somebody with who's an influencer. You have to think of it more of, okay, this partner could be KOL, could be a big brand, is working to work with us. So if you're a smaller one, I would always say try to work organically into that kind of relationship.
So I think Blake is a KOL in this case because I'm like seeing your fans screaming at the chat right now.
I love our community. So I usually think of KOLs in I guess the purpose that they serve. And so typically speaking, I break KOLs down into three categories. The first is typically engagement KOLs. These are the KOLs that like have really organic engagement on Twitter. And so these are the people that you can sort of go into their comments and they're not like these one-word replies or things like that. The type of people that are replying are, just your everyday community member type people or followers that like enjoy engaging in conversations on Twitter. And they're also like respected accounts. And when I say respected, or like, I guess you would sort of say they're other influential accounts commenting on their tweets. So this is category one for me. Category two is volume-based KOLs. These are typically the KOLs that not only do they have actually some of these KOLs don't actually have much engagement at all, but what these KOLs do is they actually put volume of buy pressure on a chart. These KOLs aren't always the people that just have Twitter handles. They've also got Telegram groups, Discord groups themselves with their own followers that might be alpha chats and things like that. And so typically speaking, when you speak to these guys, they're the types of people that will do some sort of a TA/CA on your token. They'll come in, they'll basically make a call, and then from there, their followers jump in. And then the third category for me is you're sort of like, I guess I would say kind of like your profile KOLs. What I mean by profile KOLs is the people that actually are followed by people that potentially own exchanges or are CEOs of exchanges, or are potentially followed by people that are like the founders of other major projects. So I typically look at these people because if they're collaborating with you and talking about you, you can sort of, not that you can measure directly, but you can sort of hedge your bets that one of the people that you're trying to reach out to, if you're not able to reach out to them directly, will start to see posts about you, which can create an effect, a psychological effect, I guess, of omnipresence if you do it frequently enough. And then as a result, when you do go to reach out, whether it's a cold or warm reach out, you usually have a better success rate of actually engaging with these people and getting a response. because then they feel a little bit more comfortable as if they've seen you before, which they would have, and so these are the three categories that I usually think about when I think of KOLs.
Yeah,
cool.
I wanted to quickly add, because the question was, right, so well, what metrics should be really important. So I would say for KOLs, it's not just amount of subscribers. I find it's often misleading. If you have a subscriber there that they have a great number, but don't have much engagement, it can give you perspective that you're doing well, but you're really not getting engagement. So I would say engagement is much greater way than subscribers. And it sounds obvious, but I also, like at Lever.io, we see a lot of projects that are thinking of subscribers, and that's becomes their first focus. And oftentimes just look at how well is engagement happening with the influencer. And so if they might be like 5,000, 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, but they will have 5,000-10,000 views, which is equivalent to somebody with 100,000 subscribers. So a lot of it happens because maybe they're going viral at the moment. Maybe the YouTube right now really serving them well at that very moment. Therefore, the metrics to me is more of a recency, how recent engagement is. So they might have subscribers from 5 years ago. So might have 300,000 or 500,000 subscribers, but they have only very little engagement because they haven't been either producing their content. So really look at when you're looking at influencers, make sure that there is recency, engagement, and they're not just shilling every project. Another thing to look at, it's like a red flag to me, is when a creator just shills every project. That's a very bad sign. So generally look for like that they're actually providing value. They're explaining the trends, explaining why it's important, what's relevant. So those elements will allow you to do much better decisions when you're thinking of hiring a proper KOL.
Yep. I want to talk about, I know Blake seems to be pretty familiar with the Twitter KOL, and R seems to be pretty familiar with the YouTube KOL. I wanted to understand, how do you approach budgeting for kind of like a KOL campaign? And also, is there like preferred platform over Twitter, over YouTube? And how do you kind of like overall think about the campaign? Like what should be some of the factors to consider and to optimize?
Blake, please go ahead.
Hey, yeah, thanks, mate. The budget really, like, I think always just comes down to the customer themselves, right? So usually when I take on a project, I kind of have my 4 things that I look out for. The first is the right product. The second is the right timing. The third is the right funding. And the fourth is the right team, I would say. And typically speaking, like if they don't have one of those, I don't usually take on a project. And so Gaiman was like, it was the hidden gem. Like it had everything. It had everything that I thought that would do really well. And the team with what they're building is pretty incredible so far. So I'm actually quite excited to see what this next year looks like. But in terms of like that budget question, it really just comes down to the customer. So I'm always trying to spend as least amount as possible to get the maximum result. And even when clients come across that have like these exorbitant budgets, it's like, and they're like, yeah, like let's just chuck 2 million at this. I'm like, you know what, guys, like I don't know who you've been speaking to before, but you just don't need to spend that much money. Like good marketing shouldn't usually cost money, right? Or at least that much money. Like if you've got good marketing and you've got a good story and makes sense, then it's much easier to sell. Like a product usually sells itself. So I know that's a bit of a vague answer, but that's when it comes to budgeting, like I really don't like to spend a whole lot of money to get a decent result. But at the same time, I always like to make sure that everyone that's contributing to the amplification of the messaging is winning. And so long as you can actually make that happen, because we are talking about crypto, right?
Yep.
So long as you can actually make that happen, I believe that marketing can be cheaper. And so in terms of like the channels that I typically use, I always like to focus on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. I don't see much use. I haven't seen much. It actually flickers between, but like YouTube has had not much impact up until I would say 2 months ago. During the bear, it was mostly like the 90% of the focus was just on Twitter. That's where you were getting any real results from. But YouTube has started to come back, and I think that it's effective in drawing in crowds that are like potentially new to crypto, because as you start to see the searches for anything crypto related start to increase again, and you start to see, for example, the Coinbase app jump from a ranking of 440th back up to number 1, well, you can tell that retail is coming back in. And so you've got these like signals that kind of tell you where to push the spend. And so I think in that sense, YouTube is and Twitter are for sure both avenues that people should be looking at. But yeah, like I think I answered each of those parts there. Sorry if I missed part of your question there, but that I guess that's just sort of how I think about it.
Yeah, perfect. And Lucy, can you repeat one more question for everybody, so in case somebody missed?
Yes. Is there a minimum budget that people should have in mind when they wanted to launch a successful KOL campaign, and also any platform preference like Twitter versus YouTube? Yep.
Okay, so yeah, it's so for everybody. One, have a budget. Period. Just it's not even recommended budget. The one mistake I see many projects doing is whenever I advised or I worked with, is like they don't know what the budget is. They're like, I'm like, what's your budget? And they're like, no. If you don't have a budget, the issue is what I find is a lot of projects will either if they are technical projects, they're over focused on technical, and they not give enough air, aka money, for the marketing, and then it becomes struggle if you don't plan ahead. So I would say absolutely make sure you have a budget for marketing. My rule of thumb for project, if you raise, let's say, I don't know, $500,000 or $1 million, generally try to have at least 20 to 30% of your budget on marketing. And marketing means everything. Hiring people, if you're like early stage, you don't need necessarily CMO unless you can get equity, them for like equity and money combination. If you just need a couple of you need a content writer and a person who can do outreach, who can help you do finding those influencers, finding conferences, finding all the essential keys that early stage project needs. So just make sure to have a budget, meaning like I just give it like 20, 30%. If you're really aggressive, if your tech is not so heavy lift, and I would say maybe even 50%, but I would say for most projects, they'll be around 20 to 30. Then who's very effective? I would say it depends on your stage. If you're really early, nobody knows about you, YouTube allows you to build trust because nobody heard of you. So by having a few influencers speaking about you and covering your project, you're able to build better community, because now people who come learning about you, if you don't have any content, they don't know who you are. Do you see, like everybody, like imagine your project and you're like, hey, Gum, we're building this super cool, awesome thing. It's the best widget ever. And remember, in crypto, it's all about trust. If they go, but who are you? We don't know who you are. And so ultimately, it will make a difference if you're going to retain a community or not, if they feel like they know about you. And to know, for them to feel and know about you, you need not just your own content. You can produce your own YouTube. You can produce your own blog. But ultimately, there needs to be external recognition. That's how psychology works, right? We all look for some sort of external points that will tell us, oh, yeah, I feel like I'm familiar with this. So imagine if there is like a YouTube channel that does a tutorial about your project. Now you can share it with your community, incoming community, existing community, and it allows you to build a much better rapport. So, and now you can actually onboard it much easier. So we've done that a lot at IoTeX. It's where when I joined, it was a very technical team. And my objective was to, how do we create it in a way that we can bring technical people in, and we can also have regular people who just looking to invest or learn, coexist and commingle together. And we went to YouTubers. We need really effective explainers, and really, I call it an invitation to rabbit hole. Hey, here's a really cool concept explained by this person who has a great audience, and it's much easier to listen to it and then put into action. So I would say try to use YouTube for establishing trust initially, and then Twitter is great for very quick. So think of YouTube evergreen, Twitter very quick, instantaneous, right? You send it out, it might be not relevant in a day. So be strategic.
Yep. I feel like one of the things that I've learned, we have a lot of projects that are doing quite aggressive marketing at some point of their lifespan. Um, YouTube was not a thing people talk a lot about, but surprisingly, some of the most successful campaign that we've seen is actually run from YouTube and TikTok. So TikTok for gaming, and sometimes YouTube for gaming as well. I think it's hard to they definitely have like in-house expertise, but it was like it's kind of like a surprising results just in terms of the acquisition cost. They have some of the lowest acquisition costs, roughly like 10 to 20 cents per user, and there's very few bots because the kind of audience they were getting are lots of Web2 audience. They were doing gaming, right? So then the rapid kind of like that's how they introduce new people to it. So once you have a budget, can you talk about the general flow? Do you have a system about how to cold outreach to those influencers? How does kind of like working with them feels like? What's that flow looks like?
All right, so I'll jump on this one because I had helped a lot with it back at Polymarket and before Polymarket as well, but specifically I use it Polymarket. We at the time didn't know how to, we experimented with different ways to onboard. So that goes back in the early days, 2020, and yeah, like we had a team in house, and we just thought who would be better targeting for us, and we would try to reach to those creators at IoTex. So generally, I called you need an outreach person who will be able to find not just creators but also conferences, engage with any type of partnerships. So like if you're an early stage startup, I would say partnership person is super critical. I find even the larger ones, sometimes, especially in crypto, they don't have that dedicated person. And I think it's one of the most critical people I have seen. Yeah, it's really important to make sure that we are we are able to. Sorry, by the way, Lisa, there is people saying they're waiting
Yes.
in the different videos. So you might want to post
Yes.
there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna post it on. Yeah.
All right, so let me complete my point. So what I've seen is make sure you have the right team in place. I see founders trying to lift too much. If you're a 1 or 2 founder team, generally trying to outsource it could be, unless it's like Lever.io, where we really we have creators who work with creators, and we really try to make it much more you work directly with creators versus agency. So our idea is you get to work with, like on Lever.io, you can go in and you can actually interact with creators. On YouTube or Twitter or TikTok, you're able to interact with them directly. And that's, I think, very important part, because creators should be able to communicate with you. What I find, agencies oftentimes create this wall where you cannot communicate with creator, and you lose a lot of that je ne sais quoi, like that emotion that maybe creator will feel much more strongly about your project if they know you more personally. So objective of Lever was to change that. And anybody who haven't seen it, check out Lever.io. We are really marketplace for Web3 creators. But yeah, you need a dedicated person, or you can use Lever.io to really narrow down on who your audience is, how can you target them, and how can you actually do it, get data-driven, get results. Not just like, hey, let's just spread out the word, but really make sure you have metrics that allow you to measure success. Blake, maybe jump in, let us know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to check out Lever.io, Art. That sounds really cool.
Thank you.
So the way that we typically structure it is I always have a KOL manager. This person is in charge of basically coming in, creating the relationships with the KOLs, being able to manage any sort of like questions or conversations or ideas around themes of posts that are going out, and just making sure that the overall health of the relationship is cool. And then so that KOL manager has basically like a data analytics or data analytics person that sits under them. This person assists the KOL manager in finding all the data that's necessary. So to begin with, they actually put the list together based on the specific criteria that we set out of whether it's an engagement, volume, or profile specific KOL. And again, by the way, this is just the system that I made up, and it works for us. So they put together the audience based on those lists. They put together the lists based on those profiles. And then from there, they kind of leave little cues for the different metrics that they've identified. From there, it kind of goes through a review process. They bring it to me. I triple check over the things that they've put together, any comments that were left. We refine the strategy even further. And then once it's passed through all those filters, we onboard the KOLs. KOL manager takes care of that. And then the data analytics person that sits under the KOL in perpetuity for as long as we run the campaign, just consistently list cleans. So they do kind of like a checkup, if you will, like a health check on each of the KOLs that was selected. And they make sure that they're still sort of meeting the criteria in a very unbiased way for what we initially brought them on board with. And so if the KOL no longer meets the criteria, we sort of like switch them out with someone else, which sounds a little bit harsh, but like it's just part of the KOL process. And but if they consistently sort of like sticking around, and over time they have one bad sort of month or something like that, we kind of look over that. We just think, like there's ups and downs. But so we try to have some leniency there, but mostly we sort of just like have this pretty rigorous system that we step through on a weekly basis, and we make sure that we're constantly checking and constantly list cleaning. And we just sort of go to market with this, and it seems to work pretty well for us.
Is there what I've heard about creators is they don't reply to all the messages. It's pretty much like a cold outreach. Do you guys see this problem? Because I feel like you guys are quite famous. And what are like some of the effective way to reach out to them, in order to kind of like show that you're legit and you really want to work with them?
Well, I think first of all, like it's about making sure that you respect everyone. So like typically I've seen companies in the past where they do like outreach, and it's a very like sort of vague ChatGPT written message. And I always tell like the people that work within game, and like everyone's a human. Like, how would you like it if someone sent you a message that was just very like vague and sort of like it was kind of like it was talking at you as opposed to with you? And so I think that's the key, is like we always make sure that we just maintain a level of like decency with everyone. We use their first name. We make sure that we sort of follow up if they miss it. And I think that's sort of step one. Step two, I think what happens sometimes is because we have the gold tick with Twitter, that enables us to land in someone's inbox as opposed to requests. It doesn't always work, but it does work sometimes. I think there's no real way of me knowing exactly why it doesn't work, but that's also helped. That's probably step two. The third way that we've just actually launched recently is by putting out a program. And so we've just recently launched an ambassador program, and we actually had quite a good response on that. And so launching something that's kind of like an official program alongside a brand that's well renowned is typically something that people like to be involved in. Like if I was a KOL, I would for sure jump on. And that's been something that's been really cool. And so we put this program where like these KOLs, they get access to kind of like a VIP group where there's other ambassadors that are in there. So they can talk with one another, network themselves. They can also boost each other's posts, follow one another. It's kind of like a really good way to get a network of other KOLs or ambassadors, if you will. And then as well as that, we will be, what we've said is at least what we're going to do is like for the posts that we see like that are really cool and like really nicely put together and they match the messaging that we're trying to go after, we'll boost those ourselves. And so we have systems in place where we can get our community to come in and provide support on different posts. And so not only would we do that through the Discord bots that we have, but we would also then retweet these posts. And we also like to just try and make sure that we engage on as many of these posts as possible, which I think kind of creates like a a bit of a flywheel effect, and other people want to jump on board as well. So
yeah. It's in fact, so Blake, to touch on some points you made, yeah, for sure. Be very be clear with creators. Another thing I found, and my teams, we found it that a lot of people are wasting times. Like we speak at Lever, we speak to a lot of creators, so we work with them, hand in hand when we onboard them. And in fact, they've shown us their profiles, like Twitter, like literally feeds, and they get spammed a lot. So, by the way, if anybody have a question, please drop it in the chat. So, anybody have a question about marketing and KOLs, just drop it in the chat, and we'll get to it at some point. So, what we found is it's because there's so much spam, it's good to also put a price. So if you have an idea of the creator, their size, what do you want to do, it's good to add a price and keep it short. Like, don't do 3, 4, 5 paragraphs that are cut and paste. Like Blake said, like there's a lot of spam. So influencers have very little attention span. They don't have time to listen. If they will glance, if they don't get the message immediately, they'll move on. So just assume they won't give you much time at all. So if you don't get their attention, we used to do that very effectively. The strategy worked for us when we would immediately put in, hey, we have this is our budget on this post. We really would like to work with you. And it tends to move needle very quickly. The other part I found to be effective is it might take you a while, especially if they're a big creator, to chase them after. From IoTex, I can give you a story. At some point, we had a creator who we wanted to work with and who I have worked with before. So think about this way. I already knew him, and we'd done some work with him a year prior. And it took us 3 months to chase him down, 3 months. And he increased his budget 3 times too. And we still worked with him because at the time, creators just don't want, whenever there is a up market like right now, they won't give you any time. So like at Lever, for example, the objective is for us is to shorten the journey that they already warmed up, because reality is building from zero to trust with creator. It takes time. So therefore, I would say if you want to work with creator now and launch campaign in 2 months, start building it right now. Like have your outreach person go out to them, start conversations, because if you have something a month away or 3 weeks away or 2 weeks away, like very recent, and you think you can get it done within a few weeks during the bull market, good luck.
I want to touch on this point, and I think there is a question in the audience about budgeting as well. I know Blake talked about to use your money efficiently, and I talk about to have a budget. I wanted to kind of drill down a little bit. Is there a minimum budget that people should have in mind before they start doing this? And also, so is there kind of like a tipping point when you do marketing? For example, if I just got this one KOL, would it make an impact on my growth? Or there's typically a tipping point where you have to kind of get a couple together, do a campaign before you see like a point that there is a positive network effect happening?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it first. So in my experience, if you just do one, it's not enough, because you don't know what will connect with your audience, especially unless you already really zeroed in on your subject. And I mentioned somebody had a question, does scale marketing cost? I'll mention that. But generally, I suggest having 5 to 10 KOLs of different sizes, ranges, could be YouTube, Twitter mix, and have in mind what you're trying to achieve, objectives. So Blake mentioned in the earlier point that they will work with creators. If doesn't work, they will put them aside, which is, I think that's exactly what we used to do. It's like have some sort of objectives. Maybe have URL link and something that allows you to measure success. I would say do at least 5 to 10 creators. For example, in Lever, we just offered packages, because what we found is a lot of companies that don't know how to work with KOLs, they will just do 1 or 2 KOLs. And if it's small, and usually on the smaller side, and that doesn't generate enough engagement and audiences for whatever their campaign objective is, especially if you already raised money. I would say try to get at least 10, and we'll share case studies shortly. but I'll share a little bit how that would look. But yeah, I would say definitely don't think you can do one or two. Think of it more of like discovery. You looking for different ways and different type of creators you working with. You looking for, hey, is YouTube works for us? And when I say works, means there is framework when you need a couple of videos in the beginning, but then after you don't need that many YouTube after. You really need to set up the YouTube dedicated videos where it's about your project that you can share with your communities. You can educate new community members about what it does, not just from your words, but from somebody else's. But after that, you can see maybe Twitter really gets you amplification. So you need 20 Twitters. Generally, you need more Twitters than YouTubers. So I would say building out a system that works is really important. Have a proper system, like Blake, they have system, and be data driven. Know, are you getting success or not? What is success for you? Are you actually building the proper messages and giving directions properly to the creators or not? Like all that is super important. If you're just saying, hey, do this for me, they don't know what to do. You have to be like, hey, we're looking to announce this. This is what we would like to drive into our newsletter or to our Twitter. And this is kind of the main points we would like to highlight in this project. And your marketing campaign can cost you, like proper marketing campaign, I think should be costing between 10K. Like if you're really small, maybe 5K, maybe 3K, but not less than that, not in the hundreds, unless you're really, strapped for cash. To the bigger you get, the more successful you get, to more. It could be 30, 40, 50K, but you always have to have some sort of data and expectations and measurement. Never just do, boom, let's just throw money on the fire. Do not do that. Blake, please share your perspectives.
Yeah, no, I think I mostly agree with Art here. It really is about, you have to understand there's no silver bullet. So there's no one KOL that is just going to bring you success. Like you typically need a multitude of these, and depending on your goal of what you're trying to achieve, whether it's like a downloads or whether it's a community growth thing or whether it's token buys, like it really just depends on what your strategy is to how much you spend. But I typically see people spending anywhere, like for at least for like if it's downloads, I see some people spending just $1,000 a month. I see other people spending 50,000 a month or more. If it's community growth, some people spend 5K a month. I've seen other people spend 100K a month. And then if it's like token cut through to influence people in that sense, I've seen people spend as high as I would say $500,000 a month. And so actually, no, probably more. I've seen people spend about $1 million a month. And it really just depends on exactly who you are, what stage of the business cycle you're at, the type of funding that you have, and then kind of taking it from there. But my recommendation is that you always test your product market fit with the least amount of control possible. So what I mean by that is test your product market fit on someone that isn't your mum. Because if it's your mum or someone that's close to you as a relationship, they're going to tell you, yeah, it's a really good idea. Like if you're a business, really, really do your DD first and test your product market fit. Because it's much, much cheaper to fail faster as it is to have a product that you really believe in that is just not quite the right fit and doesn't really make sense because of whatever reason that might be, whether it's messaging or timing, or the product itself has already sort of been done and it's not different enough to create an eager desire for someone to be a part of, whatever it might be. But look, budgets range. There's no silver bullet. If you're a startup, sounds like Lever is your they're your people to go to, and it sounds like they can scale your business as well. But yeah, that's probably most of my thoughts around that.
So we work with a very specific type of projects during our early stage. Usually they are back in the NFT days. Right now it's like the pre-TGE days. we see typically the way people will think about it is they will spend money. I guess it will be community growth slash a little bit token, but they don't have the token yet. The way they were packaging it, they will think about it as kind of like a 2 to 3 month sprint. Every day it's just going crazy, and we see the range of budgeting goes from about 20 to 50K over that 3-4 month period of time, and that includes everything, right? That includes hiring external marketing folks, getting the right expertise, hiring for KOLs, and they kind of like stop spending or spend a lot less like after this critical event is finished. That's kind of like the range that we see. But I feel like in bull market, it's probably going to be a bit more expensive. Yes, I wanted to kind of like switch gear a little bit just because we are close to the top of the hour. Some folks are asking about how to retain a meaningful community, how to reduce churn, how to make the community more active after after the marketing is over. I specifically wanted to hear thoughts from Blake, just to give you guys some context about gaming. So in our data, average member on the server will send about 3 message in specifically Web3 type of community. In gaming, they will do roughly about 50. And with our collab feature, they are doing close to 100 message per user. What does 100 message per user every day looks like? Roughly one message is about 2 minutes. That includes like reading, responding, right? So if somebody is spending 100 message every day on your server, they're spending roughly about 200 minutes in your community, right? So 150 to 200 minutes. That's like 3 hours, just crazy chatting. So we're looking at a cult level commitment. So I'm very curious to hear how you guys get there.
All right. I want to say, Luis, guys, if you know Luisa, she built an amazing product, Community One. So first of all, before Blake jumps in and shares some insights, drops off on us, Luisa, Community1.io, I known her for many years. She is incredibly bright. They won ETH Denver. They have amazing AI bot for community building, insane retention. So if you haven't looked Community One, and this is purely like out of respect for Lisa, I think it's one of the best tools for Discord out there. So anyone with Discord who's not using them is missing out. I think they're very fair priced. They're a very great tool. And yeah, just you want to build community, you got to use Community One.
Oh, thank you.
Blake, please.
Yeah, I can echo that too. I think that's pretty fair. I sort of said it at the beginning of this chat, but I think that Community One really does have that something special. And so, like, ways that we've been looking at, I guess, how do I put this? I've done it so many times that when it comes to explaining this, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the success. But if I'm really going to look at it and the success being activity, right?
Yes.
So I've always been a believer in that activity breeds activity.
Yes.
Or success breeds success, right? Like, I'll give you a little example. So if you're like out at the shops with let's say you're out at looking for a restaurant with some friends, and you notice one restaurant, it's like buzzing with activity. There's like smiles on the waitresses' faces. There's a bunch of people sitting down. They're all eating. There's like maybe 50 people sat at the restaurant. And then you look to the restaurant next to it. There's a waiter there, like one waiter maybe just standing there, maybe not so happy. And there's like no one sitting in the restaurant. And if I like, the psychology basically says that you're more likely to pick the one that is teeming with activity because you like, it just is more attractive to you, right? You're more attracted to that because you think maybe they're doing something right. Maybe the food is really good. Maybe I should go try it because everyone else is trying it there. I don't want to go sit at the one where no one is because maybe it's not that good. And so that's kind of how I think about our Discord server. I think about it in a way where, like, if we're up against all these other people and there's like next to no activity in other servers. Well, you're on Discord to be social and to maybe see things that are happening, right? And at least that's why, like, the majority of people that I believe are on Discord, that's what they're doing there. They're there to talk to other people and connect, make friends online, and find information. And so if they come into a server that is just not busy, then they're probably not going to be there for long. Their bounce rate, if you will, which is just like a metric that you look at when you look at websites, would probably be quite high. And so what I see is that whenever there's a busy server with a lot of activity, people are likely to sort of jump in and stay and want to participate and want to be a part of that action. And so we do a bunch of different things. Like, I think it's just about putting things in place, putting different mechanisms in place in a community channel. And a community channel, by the way, to me is like a Discord or a Telegram where people come to chat with one another. So usually you just put mechanisms in place that enable people to participate in things. Like, for example, it could be an event, it could be a game, it could be some sort of like a live voice chat. Anything, I guess, that enables, like, all the different features that are enabled from within the framework of Discord, I think are just things that you should activate, right? And you should have like a team there that kind of are always there to receive the questions from different community members. And so long as you have a team there that are actively chatting, as opposed to like an AI answering questions, I think people are more likely to join in. Although I actually have seen some success with AI being a part of a community channel, because people were simply just curious to see what it would say. So people would actually engage with it and start talking to it. We had one at one stage, but I think it went rogue, so we had to switch it off. I don't know what it started saying, but I think, when AI art, Louisa, you've probably seen AI when it hallucinates and it just starts talking about, like, I don't know, gibberish. Like, it's like, I think ours started doing that, and we were like, geez, we better turn this thing off. So,
shit posting and just like completely meme posting,
yeah,
and be like talking crap about the project, like, oh, let's go.
yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, we had some, like, I think we had some like regulation stuff that we had to look at after it. So yeah,
wow.
we had to switch that off, unfortunately.
I swear there was nothing but Hitler. Oh no, there is.
Yeah, it was wild. Like, anyway, but so, like, doing things like that, I also think that an interesting thing is, like, if you think about activity, right? You think about, well, like, say for example, you have 1,000 members in your server, and 10% of those people are talking. You'd probably want to, like, put them all in the same channel within your server. You probably don't want to spread that out across like 30 different channels, right? So, because if you have 30 different channels that people can chat in, well, you're probably going to have the splintered version of that 10% speaking at different times with one another. But then that sort of, if you think about it, if you've got, like, you splinter those people evenly, just for the example's sake, and you've now got like 0.33% of each of those active 10% in each channel, well, then you probably, if you were to go each channel individually and look at it, you would see that maybe each channel isn't that busy, because they're all diluted through the different channels. So bringing people into maybe just 1 to 3 channels is probably the best idea, to then maintain a level of activity that can appear as if you're busy. And busy is, like, I think, so long as you've got a message every couple of minutes, like, that's enough, like, because people can see that people are active. But if you've got a Discord and you've got a bunch of channels, maybe that's an optimization you can make, and that's a cool takeaway you've got from this space. Like, go and reduce your channels, because you just don't need that many channels. Think about what is a must-have, and think about what is a nice to have. And if you find that you only land on a few must-haves, well, then you probably, like, that intuitively should tell you to reduce your channels.
Yep.
But if you're starting to land on, like, way more, well, then maybe you probably have to relook at your model as to what you actually use Discord for. And again, just keeping it on Discord, because obviously the amazing team, Louisa and her team from Community One. That's where they sit. But yeah, I can also say that, like, so another way to grow a Discord can be from different, like, different platforms, like your Galaxies or your Zealies. But what stood out for me with Community One was that they had features that pretty much enacted the same functionality of a Zealy and what that did, and the function that it existed for. And so that's what really sort of stood out to me. I was like, oh, we need to be a part of this for sure. So I think I saw Louisa, it might have been, reach out in tickets, and I got tagged by one of our guys, one of our mods, and yeah, as soon as I kind of like read the brief, I was like, oh, no brainer. Which is like, it's an interesting thing in itself, Louisa. I'm not in tickets too often because, like, the things that I'm doing, and then I read that and I was like, oh, like I guarantee there's going to be a bunch of other marketers out there who just have no clue what this message means. But this to me was just like, it just stood out. I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. Like, we need Community One in our Discord. I got more excited about it than the rest of the team because I was like, guys, do you know what this means? And they were like, no. And I had to explain it to them, and they're like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, trust me, this is gonna work. Like, we need it. So yeah.
Well, that's why what makes you a really good marketer, because you see, between the lines. It's all about whenever somebody hiring for the team or thinking who is a marketer, you can't just have somebody who's gonna follow existing formula, because in crypto it changes so rapidly that you need to be somebody adaptive.
Yeah, I feel like it take a genius to discover another one. Not that I'm a genius, but Ren reached out to a lot of projects. But you guys, he's a huge fan, and he's a huge fan of you guys. So like, we're so excited. I think because you guys are so good, that's why you discovered us in some way. We only have like 3 minutes left. I wanted to see if there's any other questions. And I wanted to ask you guys for like a quick, like a 1 minute thing that you want people to take away, if like they can only take one thing away from this section.
Well, yeah, my takeaway is for everyone is have a plan, have a marketing budget, understand how community is built. I think today we're able to dive in and dissect parts, and really make sure you not just, if you don't know how to do it, you can experiment, you can try Lever.io, but ultimately I would say have the right team, have the budget, have the objective, what do you want to hit, and don't I feel people, and a lot of startup founders, they just stop doing anything. They start focusing on their comfort zone. So if marketing is not your comfort zone, I would still say don't let it till later. So let either hire somebody who is good, who can lead it, outsource like to community, like Community One, or to Lever for influencers, but really make sure you know what you're trying to achieve. Like, that's the biggest takeaway for me, for everybody. Like, have your objectives, have a budget, hopefully have the team to fill it in, use other sources such as Community or Lever, and be able to, and like, don't panic. So that's my takeaways.
Like,
yeah, I would say just focus on creating relationships with people. Like, actually give a shit about what people say in the conversation, and like, listen to what other people have to say about what they think about your product. And don't listen to any one person. Maybe listen to 50 people that you speak to. Or if that's daunting, listen to 10. And maybe derive an understanding of what the average of those 10 people think after having those conversations, Like, you really don't have to be that much of a people's person. You just have to, show that you care. And if you, like, I guess that's what makes us all human, right? It's like being able to like actually talk to people, connect with people. We're social beings. Just do what feels natural, and yeah, like, hopefully you don't get led into anything that is a scam or anything like that. So always keep your eyes open. But yeah, just think logically about all your decision making. Listen to the feedback that you get from people, and yeah, just reach out and ask for help if you need it. Most people are willing to help.
I feel like when here's my takeaway. There are many ways to roam, but you have to be aware that you're heading towards Rome. If you don't have a plan, you're not gonna get any. You're not gonna be able to get anywhere.
Lisa, maybe drop a Community One link and Lab.io link into the chat, so anybody who wants to
Yes.
check it out.
And also, I will do the gaming link too, but I feel like gaming is such a. Feel free to send. Let me send over our link and level link as well.
It's it was a great session. I'm once again,
And
we didn't even get to like, I had a case like whole presentation case study. We'll do another session, we promise, and we'll get more into the details. So if you want to learn more case studies and things, you can check out news.lever.io or go to lever.io, join our newsletter. Community One, I'm sure, Lisa, you'll host something really soon.
Yeah.
This was really good.
Awesome, cool. And Blake, thank you for dropping by. I appreciate your insight, and thank you, Art, for coming.
That was
awesome, cool. I will speak to you guys next time.
Yes, we'll have one more, guys. So we can even get to the half of this. So there's so much to unpack. So be ready. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Cool. Bye.